What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. All right, let's move on to Orlando, Cleveland. I'm not going to go nearly as long on this one. Like I said, I don't view either of these teams as legitimate championship contenders, but I'll give you guys my thoughts on my research from this morning. So the season series is tied at 2. The Magic won most recently on February 22nd, but Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell have not played together in this particular matchup since way back in like December, which was like 4 months ago. They're 1-1 in the games that Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Franz Wagner, and Paolo Banchero, all 4 of them play. They're 1-1 in those matchups. For the season series, all 4 games, Cleveland has a 119 offensive rating. Orlando has a 113 offensive rating. So Cleveland has been the more effective offense. Both teams have struggled to clean up the defensive glass in this matchup. On the gambling front on DraftKings, right now the Cavs are a minus 195 favorite. Some of the stuff I've seen on film, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland have not played together since December 11th, which means like there's not a whole lot we can get from this in terms of like actually seeing what this series is going to look like, because not just injuries to the stars, but injuries to the role players. Both teams have had really different starting lineups throughout the season as key important front court players have been out with injuries, or backcourt players for Orlando have been out with injuries. And so not a whole lot to see on film, but you can see some stuff in the individual numbers. Donovan Mitchell in 3 games in this matchup is averaging 27, 4, and 7, 44% from the field, 36% from 3. I watched some film this morning. I think he looks pretty solid against Jalen Suggs. Like he's got the quickness to kind of get away from his ball pressure. So I think that matchup is actually something that Donovan Mitchell can do pretty well in. Darius Garland in 3 games, 27 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists per game, 51% from the field and 39% from 3. So Garland's been great in this particular matchup. Paolo and Franz have played in all 4 games. Paolo 23, 6, and 4 on 46% from the field and 25% from 3. Franz Wagner 16, 5, and 5 on 39% from the field and 16% from 3. Dean Wade was available, though, and guarded him for the most part in those games, and he's out of the lineup now. So I do think Franz will have more of a size advantage in this particular series than he did over the course of the regular season. For the Cavs on offense, Cavs are a heavy pick and roll attack. They run 37 of them a game, which is the 9th most in the NBA. The Magic are a solid pick and roll defense, though. They're the 11th best pick and roll defense in the league, including passes. They allow just 0.983 points per possession. Most of this is going to come down to Jalen Suggs and Gary Harris and just the job they do on Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Got to find a way to make those guys feel uncomfortable and apply back pressure. I would go with a similar strategy that I talked about with Phoenix and Minnesota. With Garland, I would come with a lower drop and try to bait him as a scorer. And with Mitchell, I'd bring extra defenders and try to play into his biggest weakness, which is he can be a little score first from time to time, although Mitchell's taken great strides as a playmaker over the last couple of years. But those are the schemes that I would use in these particular matchups. They got to Cleveland has to avoid the problem from last year, which is last year against New York, they were able to basically just play 3-on-2 against pick and roll because Evan Mobley could not score on the roll. He was 0 for 10 shooting out of the roll last year against the Knicks in that first round series. This season, shooting just 53% on the roll and is a 36th percentile score as a roll man. So that's still kind of an issue. Look for the Magic to have Wendell Carter Jr. just kind of guard Jared Allen and sit underneath the basket and kind of defend both of them and have them use like Paolo Banchero to come up to the level and basically force Evan Mobley to score in the mid-range in the pick and roll. That's what I'm expecting them to do schematically. Orlando on offense, they're also a high-volume pick and roll team. Believe it or not, they run more pick and roll than Cleveland. But they only get 0.95 points per possession in pick and roll. Just 23rd in the NBA. So they're not a very good pick and roll team, even though they do it a lot. Main issue there is they can't shoot. They're dead last in 3-pointers made per game. 24th in 3-point percentage. So teams can just load up on them in ball screens. Also, both of their main shot creators, Franz and Paolo, are guys that you can kind of back off of. Franz is just a bad jump shooter at this point in his career, although I think he will be a better one in the long run. Paolo is solid, especially in the short to mid-range, but for the most part, teams are going to be comfortable playing off of him and daring him to shoot. I think Cleveland's going to do that basically to both guys. Franz and Paolo are at their best when they get switches onto smaller guards and try to play bully ball. That's made them one of the best ISO teams in the league. They get 1.03 points per ISO. That ranks 4th in the NBA. They will have some size advantages in this series. The big thing for Cleveland is they're going to have to find a way to avoid those switches. So hedging and recovering with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland to make sure that they don't get up on Franz and Paolo, that could be a problem. A couple other keys for Cleveland. They really need to pack the paint on defense and force Orlando to make jump shots. Load up on their pick and rolls, dig down on ISOs, bait them into their worst tendencies, which is like they can just go really cold from the perimeter, right? And then, like I said, avoiding those switches. On offense, they need Garland and Mitchell to take care of the basketball. This is a turnover forcing team from Orlando. This is what they do best. They are the second best turnover forcing team in the league. They're the second best team in scoring off of turnovers. And so decision making and ball security for Garland and Mitchell are going to be huge. And then Evan Mobley has to score on the roll. Or if he's struggling to score on the roll, they need to flip their ball screen dynamic and have Jared Allen set the screens and have Evan Mobley sit in the short roll. Don't go down the same way, or excuse me, have Evan Mobley sit in the dunker spot. Don't go down the same way you did in the first round last year. On the Orlando front, do not fall into the jump shot trap. When they're playing off, don't fall into that by just taking jumpers. Go into ball and player movement to try to fight that as much as possible, at least for the 24 seconds of the shot clock. Do everything you can with ball and player movement to avoid settling for those types of shots. And then they need to ride the defense to transition train as much as possible. They've got to get into Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, force turnovers, and run as much as they can. Muck the game up, drag it down into the mud. You are the bigger, stronger team. You have an advantage there if you can win in the physicality. My prediction, I view both of these teams on a pretty similar level, but I lean Cleveland for 3 reasons. One, I trust Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland more as decision makers in a 7-game series than Paolo and Franz. They're more experienced and they are better jump shooters. It's actually kind of similar to why I picked against Cleveland last year. I trusted Jalen Brunson more than I trusted Donovan Mitchell. I trust Donovan Mitchell and Garland more than I trust Franz and Paolo. That's a big part of why I'm picking them. I also think Orlando is really going to struggle to score in the half court. Cleveland will too, I just think to a lesser extent. Secondly, Cleveland got their ass kicked in the playoffs last year. And so they have a pretty good idea of what to expect in this first round series in terms of the level of physicality, the adversity they're going to face, the pressure. The Magic are really young and have no experience in this type of setting. I think that's a big advantage to Cleveland. And then lastly, Cleveland has home court, which I think, especially for young defensive-minded teams, is a big deal. So I'm going to be picking the Cleveland Cavaliers to win this series in 6 games.